Well, good morning, YouTube. All right, guys. Thursday morning. Just a recap on yesterday. We tried to drive the sport coach from Rapid City back to North Carolina. We only made it to Mitchell. Yeah, nowhere near as far as I'd hoped to make it. Yeah, looks like it's leaking gas. This got quite the trip overnight. So anyway, today we're gonna try to fix that, get back on the road. But first things first, gotta go inside, get some coffee, get woken up. All right, guys, I've had my coffee and I'm awake. I've gone through all my emails. Unfortunately, the day is going by quickly. It's already almost noon. I am going to move this over to the auto parts store and we're gonna get to doing the repair on it. Now, I know in yesterday's video I talked about adding a second fuel pump and getting both tanks working right. And the more I think about it, I'm not gonna do that, I don't think. I'm just gonna get the rear tank working. It's the larger of the two tanks. It's where the fuel is already returning to anyways. This way I shouldn't need to modify the return line whatsoever. I will, however, have to take the fuel pump that was in the rear that I moved to the front and then move back to the rear and then back to the front again. I'm gonna put it back in its original spot on the back frame rail and rewire it back in, properly without just twisting wires together like I did on the side of the road. So I'm gonna have to go get a couple tools to get that done. And in theory, I should just never use the front tank anymore, leave the switch on the main tank. And if I'm not mistaken, that rear tank is 56 gallons. Now, yesterday I talked about how I wasn't sure what it was, but I actually got the camera up there and took a picture of the plate that's on the side of it, or the identification tag. It's kind of hard to read, but I think it's 56 gallons. I will still keep my 10 gallons of spare gas no matter what, but hopefully that will get us on the road. If I got to stop every 150 or 200 miles with gas in it, I'm fine with that. I just want it to work and not run out of gas every 80 or 100 miles. Now, yesterday, because of all these fuel system problems, we never touched on the overheating problem. I did put a little picture of the dash there, and you can see that it was running hot, and that was me trying to run 65 mile an hour most of the way. Got up over 70 a couple of times, but mostly tried to keep it around that 65 mile an hour. Later in the day, when this started becoming more of a problem as it got hotter, it was well into the 90s yesterday, coming down Interstate 90. I actually slowed it down to about 55 mile an hour, and at that point, it seemed to run a little bit cooler, more towards that mid-range. Still hotter than I'd like, but not overheating. It never overheated. It was just running considerably hotter than I would like it to. Now, I saw that somebody this morning had left a comment about maybe being a radiator cap, and I really don't think that's the problem. Stan had some overheating issues with it, as we discussed, and he had the thermostat, the radiator cap, a lot of that stuff replaced already. What I did notice once yesterday is we crested a hill and I completely let off of the throttle. And as the coach decelled down the hill a little ways, the speed dropped from 65. We went down to 55 mile an hour, and it cooled, obviously. When I got back into the throttle, I felt like it was running too high of an RPM, like maybe it had come out of overdrive or something, but realistically, I don't think this even has an overdrive. Pretty sure it's a 400 transmission, which is only a 3-speed if I'm not mistaken. But what it was is the fan clutch was engaged. So obviously the engine made a lot more noise, and it stayed engaged until that needle dropped all the way back to that halfway position, and then it disengaged. Never throughout the rest of the day did I hear that fan clutch kick in. So I'm pretty sure it's a fan clutch problem. Maybe it's not engaging when it should be. It's engaging occasionally, but when it engaged, it cooled it right down. So chances are replacing a fan clutch is not something we're going to get into on the side of the road, because if you've seen the way the engine's packed into here, it's not easy to get to. If I just have to drive slower to keep it cooler, then that's just what we'll do. I did notice that the coolant that I added to it yesterday somehow was not there. The radiator is absolutely full. The oil level is good, but the overflow bottle for the radiator is back down to the add mark. So while I'm at the auto parts store, I will grab some more and put in there. Again, no visible signs of leaks anywhere, and I spent a lot of time underneath it yesterday, so I'm not sure where that's going. Maybe it's just filling air pockets or something. I don't know. All right, guys, as you can see, I got it moved over here off to the side in a nice shady spot. Hopefully I'll be out of the way while I do this repair. Now, one of the reasons I decided to go ahead and eliminate the front tank and not try to get the whole dual tank system working properly is because there's a lot of wiring stuff that's been modified down there. Those Scotch clips put into things, and that could turn into a whole mess. That, and I have to buy the second fuel pump. There could be something wrong with that switching valve, which may not even be available. So I figured for simplicity purposes, just gonna do a standard one tank system. I know that the fuel pump wiring works back here because I've already had it hooked up. I know that the return line is already going to the back tank because it's overflowing. So realistically, if I just feed the engine from the rear tank, that overflow cycle ends, and it's the larger of the tank. So I know it's not necessarily the right way, but I think it's the easiest way to get this thing home. And then I can do a more in-depth repair maybe later on in the future. And you guys, I forgot to mention, all day yesterday coming down the interstate, I saw a lot of really cool classic cars headed out west towards Rapid City. I don't know if there's some kind of an event going on. Of course, in Murdo, where I was, is where the big classic car show museum thing is. So the Pioneer Auto Show is actually what they call it. So I always expect to see cool cars there. One of them was really cool. It was like an old Model T rat roddy kind of thing, but it had a fifth wheel hitch and it was towing like a rat rod fifth wheel camper behind it. It was just really, really cool. Wish I would have got it on video. All right, guys, another $120 spent inside the store. I got basically a union, a 3/8 union to connect the fuel lines. I got an electrical repair kit and a small ratchet tool kit and a screwdriver set. So the plan is I'm going to take the fuel pump back out of the front, move it to the rear. And because I have positively identified the fuel line that goes to the engine fuel pump, I just then need to identify the fuel line coming from the tank, which once I have the pump hooked up would be pretty easy. I energize it and the one that spits fuel out will be the one I need. And I can union them together. So at that point, the rear tank will then feed the engine with the return already there. Hopefully this should be relatively quick and easy. But before I do it, I'm gonna go put on the clothes I had on yesterday because they already smell like gas and grease, and these do not, they're clean. So that way, when I'm done, I can go shower again, hopefully, and put some clean clothes back on. All right, now I smell like a gasoline-filled sweaty gym walker, but it's okay. I put down the leveling system. See, there's the front one, there's one in the rear also, because we're sitting a little crooked here, and that's gonna give me a little bit more room to work underneath there because I'm a big guy. It's kind of hard to squeeze in. It's really challenging yesterday on the side of the road. Well, it's not the greatest of toolkits, but it'll do. At least I got a screwdriver. I don't have to use the dime anymore to undo the hoses. All right, guys, only after about 10 minutes or so, that fuel pump is back in place. It is rewired and all the connections are made back to the way it was when we started the project. And I think it's pretty amazing how fast it actually goes when you have the right tools. Well, I don't know about right tools, but we have tools. All right, guys, so this is the hose that runs up to the engine, to the mechanical fuel pump. And I traced this right here is the hose that comes from the rear fuel tank that I just put the fuel pump in line on. So in theory, once I introduce power to the rear pump, I should get fuel spraying out of here. So let me prop this up someplace so it doesn't spray me in the face, and we will test that theory. Yep. All right, as you can see, we have fuel. So now I just connect these two together, and in theory, it should run the fuel supply straight to the engine's mechanical fuel pump. All right, guys, all hooked up. I can see a shake, so we've got to be doing something right. I can hear the fuel pump changing tone. It's building pressure. So now we're just gonna make sure that nothing leaks. The hose barb I used here was not the right size. It was labeled 3/8, and these are 3/8 hoses, but I think they were actually 5/16. Unfortunately, nothing they had inside would work any better. So I just tightened the clamps down a little extra, and hopefully it all works. All right, guys, the system completely primed up and the fuel pump shut off, and I don't see any leaks anywhere. So I'm gonna let it sit there and hang out for a little bit just to double check. I figure maybe I'll take this opportunity to figure out why I don't have headlights, and I might even check that seat power system so that I can get that seat in a much better position. I'm at an auto parts store. This is the time to look into it. All right, guys, well, I think I got everything good enough to roll. I did not fix the headlight problem. I've got power to the switch, got power from the switch, but all the wires disappear. It's really hard to tell where the problem is actually at. You know, and I'm fine with just driving through that today and not at night, but if worst comes to worst, I can always run a jumper wire to the headlight from the battery if I had to. But we'll worry about that when the time comes. I did get the driver's seat adjusted. I ran a jumper wire from the battery to the driver's seat, jumped it to the switch, got the switches to operate, and I think I've got it in the most comfortable position I can possibly get it in. What's weird is once I pulled the jumper away, now the seat works fine without the jumper. So it didn't work until I made it work, and then now it works. So I don't know, but it's in a much better position now than it was. I've topped off the coolant. I don't see any leaks. So I think all we can do now is go drive this thing. I'm gonna head back over to the truck stop. I'm gonna top off our 10 gallons of extra gas just in case, because I don't want to get stuck somewhere without it, because I'm pretty sure we got this right, but I still can't explain where the fuel in that rear tank went on the first day. So the first time we had problems, that tank I thought was full, so I don't know. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. So let me get this down off of the jacks before we go any further. All right, it is quarter after 3 now. I topped off the fuel cans and put them back in the compartment. The main tank should be full of gas. I moved the switch to the main tank function. Hopefully everything should work the way we planned. I also grabbed some coffee and some lunch, set it up there so that I can grub while I'm going down the road. So for now, I think I'm going to go ahead and put my clothes on, my clean clothes anyways, get these smelly ones back off, and go for a ride. As you can see there, we took a tour through downtown Mitchell. I actually drove by the Corn Palace. I was going to get a couple pictures of it. A lot of road construction. Couldn't get up close to it enough. But I wanted to make sure that we didn't run out of gas. You know, the carburetor holds fuel, so I wanted to make sure to burn up enough at least to know that everything was working and drawing properly. So good 10-15 minute ride around town. No overheating issues, no stalling issues. So now all we do is get it up on the interstate and hope that everything works well there. All right, guys, so we're getting ready to roll out. And so just to document mileage right now, I am at 31,030.9 miles. So let's see how far we get in this tank of fuel. So I'm hoping at least 150 or 200 miles would be great. I'd love to at least be able to get out of South Dakota, maybe get into Iowa or something, and before I need to get any fuel. So I'm hoping not to run out. I'm hoping that I'll be willing to stop and then just top it off and everything will work well. So let's see. And yeah, 31,000 miles, guys. That's all this thing has on it. The owner that had it, from what I understand, bought it brand new, and they had only used it once or twice a year to go about 2 or 3 hours away from where they lived in South Dakota. So it didn't get a lot of miles on it. And then it sat in a field for 2 to 4 years, from what I'm understanding, before Stan bought it. And then Stan had it for a year or two maybe, and he only used it a few times before they decided to buy a fifth wheel and tow it behind the truck. So from the time I got it, it had been sitting for another 2 years or so. So even though it's a 1983, it just hasn't been used a lot. And I think that's why it, you know, credits to the fact that it's in such good condition and almost everything on it works, with a few exceptions, obviously, like this whole fuel tank system. But hopefully we've got that all figured out. So let's get on the road.
Of course, after you do half of those, it's rotating the engine.
All right, guys, 50 miles in from Mitchell. So far, no issues. No problems with the fuel at all. Stay in my lane. And if I keep the speed between 55 and 60, not having any troubles with the engine running hot, that needle staying right in the middle of the temperature gauge. But a couple of times, not paying attention, where I've crept up to that 65, I look down and it's starting to get over that way. Not dangerous by any means. I back it out, take it back to 55, 60, and we're okay. This is where I really, really wish that the cruise control worked on this. It doesn't. It's equipped with it, but it's not working, and I haven't tried to diagnose that. Because it is really, really difficult to maintain 55 mile an hour in an 80 mile an hour zone, because you just feel like you're going so slow. All the other cars and trucks just flying by me, which I'm fine with. But if I had cruise control, I could just set it and forget it. I know that the temperature would stay good. I'd also be able to stretch and relax my leg a little bit more, because it is still just a little bit cramped up here. The seating position is much better, but it's still not good. It's still tilted down a little bit. I got it up, but the tilt is still there. And I noticed that over time, I slowly start to slouch. I've got enough room to like fully extend my left leg up underneath the dash, but I can't do that with my right because of the gas pedals and then the center hump where the engine is. So, but I do have some good news. The fuel gauge has slowly been coming down. It's just now come off of full, where it was a little bit over full. So I don't know that it's accurate yet or not, but remember before, we weren't getting any reading on that gauge. And I didn't do anything whatsoever with fuel gauge wiring. I just think it was some kind of weird anomaly that it wasn't working, and now maybe it is. I'm still not trusting it, but it's making me feel a little bit better that maybe, just maybe, things are going to go good. We're almost to Sioux Falls. I get to Sioux Falls, I think we're going to go ahead and pick up Interstate 29 and start heading south through Iowa, kind of towards Omaha or so. If I get down to Council Bluffs tonight, it'd be great. Again, without headlights, I'm limited to daylight hours, and right now it's currently 4:28 in the afternoon, Central Time. So I should have time to make it down there, maybe. Maybe not. We'll just see. Let's just keep going.
Kind of crazy. But anyway, alright, let's get on down the road. We got like 15 minutes or 30 minutes to get to our next.
Alright guys, 120 miles since we left Mitchell. We're still about 20-25 miles from Sioux City, Iowa, heading south on 29. But this is the furthest that we've been able to go at one time without stopping. The fuel gauge still reads 3/4 of a tank, and I'm actually doing a little over 60 now. And the temperature's maintaining right at that halfway point. I may go ahead and try to bump it up to 65 and see how it does there. It seemed like as soon as we turned south onto 29, it didn't run as hot. Maybe it's just the way the airflow was directed towards the grill or something. Maybe it was just some kind of weird vacuum that was starving the radiator for air back there. We'll see. But right now, as we're talking, I'm at 65. We'll just monitor this between here and Sioux City, see how it does. Alright guys, about 2 miles from the Iowa state line, we're here in North Sioux City. We've gone just shy of 150 miles, and everything so far is still running good. Now, for the last few miles since we last talked, I did bump it up to 65 mile an hour, and the temperature did increase, but not substantially like it did yesterday. So that's where we're at. I can live with that. You know, where the center line is at 55, it stays right on the center line. 65 is coming up to here. Look at the fuel gauge. We're just now at halfway and doing 65 mile an hour. And it says it's 82 degrees outside, 85 in here. It actually feels pretty good in here right now. I do have the fans blowing on me and all the windows open.
You know, we did this 1 week ago yesterday. That's where we stopped and visited with Roger and Amber. Hi, Roger. Hi, Amber. Passing through your town again. But I don't think we're going to stop this time. So it's about 6 o'clock in the evening. I know I'm limited on how much daylight we've got left. So I'm going to try to make it down towards Council Bluffs, Iowa. I don't know exactly how far that is from here. I haven't mapped it or anything, and I just don't remember. But we're going to do our best to get down that way. Everything's running smoothly right now, so we're just going to keep rolling. Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys watch Super Trucker Dan, and there's a couple other YouTubers that also watch Super Trucker Dan to do the same thing. Well, right there ahead of us is your train for the day. Look at that, 2 trains. One above us, one over there on the left. Guys, I wasn't expecting this, but there was a sign right there that said I-29 closed, all traffic must exit. And Council Bluffs should be right here someplace. I forget the exit number, but I was going to stop at the exit where there's a Pilot and a Sap Brothers truck stop. Yeah, all of a sudden we are on city streets with stoplights. And there's a Harris Casino. Hopefully I can find my way to where we need to be. Hey, look, another train. You guys got 3 trains for the day. Like it might put us right back on. Alright, and I do believe this is the exit. Yep, if you guys can see the water tower there off to the left, that is the Sap Brothers. There should also be a Pilot or a Flying J across the street. So this is the exit I was looking for. Exit 50. You know, with the construction and the detour, I wasn't sure, but I always remember this bridge with this metal artwork on it. It stands out quite a bit. Alright guys, as you can see, that sun is going down, which is why I wanted to get to this area, because I still don't have headlights. And I've never parked at the Sapp Brothers before, so I don't know where the best place to park is. Looks like there's a spot there, but I hate to take up a truck spot if I can fit somewhere else. Alright guys, I found a spot here that's not too far from the front. I'm in bobtail spots, but there's quite a few of them open. Hopefully I'm not in people's way. But if you look, we went 251 miles without having a breakdown, not needing any fuel. Now the gas gauge is right there, so we're definitely need fuel in the morning before we head out. Temps are all looking good. So guys, if I can expect 250 miles out of a tank of fuel, I'm happy with that. I don't think we're gonna get much more. I don't know how much more is in the bottom of that tank that maybe the gauge isn't reading. But in the morning before we head out, I'll definitely top it off. But again, at 250 miles, I'm gonna wanna get out and stretch my legs anyways, because the driving position still isn't that great. I still get kind of like a pain in my right knee because of the awkward position of it. So I'm gonna wanna stop then anyway. So, oh, and we lost something on the way here. So there was a door covering this. This is the back of the refrigerator. But the door didn't fit very nicely. And as we were coming through Sioux Falls and got south on 29, sometime between there and Sioux City, Iowa, I noticed that it was open. And it was just kind of floating out there. I was like, well, when I stop, I'll go to check it. And at the time, I thought I'd end up stopping in Sioux Falls. Or, I'm sorry, Sioux City. And I just chose not to. But then all of a sudden, it just flew off. A semi-truck came by, and it caused a gust of wind, and it yanked it right off. I watched it fly off, and 3 other cars run over it. So at that point, I decided not to go back and get it. Ninja 250, guys. Got one sitting in my garage. Also, the bike I learned how to ride on. Anyway, guys, since we're safe and we're here and the sun's going down, this is where we're going to call it the end of the night. I don't know if I'm going to end this video now or just continue into tomorrow, because, you know, the last part of this was pretty boring with no breakdowns. I know the yesterday was pretty exciting. Today, not so much. And maybe the rest of this trip will go smooth. So just in case I close this one now, thank you guys for watching, and keep those engines running. And either way, we'll see you tomorrow morning. Check out the taxi cab.